Greetings, my friend. Welcome to the secret shop.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the first episode of the Secret Shop and Artifact podcast. I am Neon, and I'm joined today by two wonderful guests. Simon, you're here.
Yes, I am. Hello. Glad to be here.
And Anger's here as well.
Yo, what's poppin'?
Yeah, okay, so just to let you guys know about what's happening here, introduction to the whole things of the Secret Shop podcast, I'm starting to focus on artifact-related content. Some of you might have seen some of my Eternal podcasting stuff. I've been doing that for a couple of years. So we have enough stuff happening right now in Artifact. I was like, yeah, I think this is a good time to start it. So today, for the first episode, we're having on Anger and Simon to chat about what's going to be happening at PAX, because we had some great reveals that happened recently.
Exciting stuff.
That. Very exciting stuff. So we're going to talk through that. Not sure exactly how the schedule for the podcast will be happening in the next couple of weeks. Basically, when new news comes up, we'll be doing a new episode, and you're figuring it out from there. But that's what we're up to. Let's start off, though, by introducing some of my guests. So, Simon, how about you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I became interested in Artifact because I've been playing Dota for a number of years, thousands of hours in that game. Some of you may know me from the Artificers Guild, where I've done a couple lore-focused videos. And I'm just really excited to see what this game is going to bring. And I hope that it's going to be one of my mains in the future.
Very nice, very nice. Now, Anger, tell us about yourself.
I'm just me to the max, like Pepsi. Yeah, I'm done.
Well.
Just me to the max. Just okay. We'll trust you. Actually, I thought about a good question, a good icebreaker question that you guys haven't had a chance to hear yet, but it'll be a great way to meet you as people. And the question is, can you tell me a story that's like gaming specific that tells me about yourself? So I'll give you an example from my own life. When I was a young boy, I would have my friends that would come and knock at the door, and they'd be like, can you come outside and play? You want to hang outside and play? And I'd be like, no, man, I'm playing video games. I'd be like, no, where's I'm going to hang outside and play video games. I'm not going outside. And they'd be like, are you sure? I can't go play over your house. You have to come outside and play with me. And I'd be like, no. And that just happened like every week, basically. I just hated going outside, and I was always like, yeah, no, I'll just stay indoors. I don't want to hang out with you. I'd rather just play video games.
Wow, too real.
Yeah, that was like half my childhood. So Simon, how about you? How about you tell us a story about yourself from gaming?
Let me think. Way back in the day when Dota 2 was only announced, I actually wrote a couple articles for a variety of fan sites, most of which are no longer living, but you can use the Wayback Machine to find a couple things. I was actually invited to the Dota 2 beta by IceFrog himself. I was a mod on the Play Dota forums way back then. And yeah, since I live in Germany, I was able to go to the first international as well and meet...
Oh, hype.
Yeah, very hype. I was able to meet Gabe Newell and take a picture with him. I cherish that picture very much.
Keep it by your bed. You pray to it every day. It's like, beta, please, keep it.
Every night.
Where's my beta key? Where's my artifact beta
key? Absolve me, testify.
Very nice, very nice. Okay, how about you, Anger? What is a gaming story about you that tells us about yourself?
Well, how I started playing Dota is pretty pathetic, actually. My friends, there was a group of 4 people who played a lot of Dota. I didn't play Dota. And they were tired of only having a 4-stack. So they forced me to play Dota so we could have 5-stack, and they forced me to play Lich every game. And I basically did nothing.
5.
Huh?
Position 5 every day.
Yeah, more like position 6. I didn't get if I took just one last hit, they would spring out on me so hard and yell at me for minutes.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
But then after a while, you got right there.
After like 6 months of doing that, and that's why on my Dota buff, even though I only play carry and mid now, if you look at my Dota buff, like one of the most played heroes I have is Lich. And that's because
yeah?
the first 6 months I only played Lich. But then after that, like I said fuck them, and I actually started enjoying the game, so I started playing on my own. But then new drama arose because I wanted to play core, and so did everybody else in the friend group. So everyone within the friend group was fighting over mid and carry.
Yeah, welcome to Dota.
So basically, both of our stories are about like, man, fuck friends. Just video games is where it's at. That's what it's about. So I can relate to that. Okay, so as I said at the top, the topic of today's show, unsurprisingly, if anybody's been paying attention, is the information that came out at PAX that's related to PAX. So a few things to explain generally about what's going on here. PAX, big conference that's happening in the U.S. Just in a couple of weeks now. It's the 28th that it begins, right? So like 10 days from the time that we're recording this, roughly. So what's happening at PAX is that there's a tournament that's taking place with Artifact that is just, like all through the consoles that they have there, and it allows you to play with some of these Artifact decks that they have available for you. So let's read what it says here. Attendees at PAX West will be able to play Artifact, a collaboration between legendary game designer Richard Garfield and Valve. In the game's first public showing, players will battle each other in a continuous single elimination gauntlet for the right to challenge a champion on the main stage. Win or lose, everyone who plays at PAX will earn Artifact merchandise, including signed prints of artwork and 2 keys for free copies of the game when it's released, which is pretty sweet.
Does sound like a pretty sweet deal.
Yeah, no, like that's a $40 value, because even if you just like take the keys and then just sell the packs, that because you're going to get 10 packs for each account, right?
I mean, so potentially more.
Yeah, I mean, that's possible too. But I thought that we knew that we were going to get 10 packs each per account to begin with, because it's 2 starter decks and then 10 packs per account. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, potentially valued more.
Oh, yeah, sure.
They might be worth more than that, depending on your luck.
Sure. So, but yeah, so then the event decks, the description is attendees at PAX West will have access to 4 different decks enabling 4 different play styles for each match in the gauntlet. Each player will be randomly assigned a deck they haven't yet played. Below is a preview of what you can expect to encounter at PAX. So yeah, they have to play these 4 different decks, and then the players that do the best in this will get to challenge somebody on stage or something like that. So that's the table here. Any other comments from you guys about the general nature of the tournament, or is that pretty clear?
I wonder if they get to keep the deck that they are assigned, because they get 1 deck, right? I wonder if they get to keep it.
Well, you mean they get to log in and put it on their account?
I don't know. That's just what I
That'd be really cool.
Probably not. They probably don't get it.
Yeah. I imagine they're probably just going to be using some, given, terminals that they have set up. That'd be really cool if they had it. That they gave you these decks to also be part of the accounts that you get to.
I think it's going to be like a further developed version of the demo that they had in March for the journalists, where it basically boots straight into deck selection, and from there you get matched up with the people present at the event. But I'm most interested in the format, actually, because they call it Gauntlet. And I have no idea how they're going to do that over the course of several days, if there's going to be one specific day where the champion appears, the champion to be beat. But we only see the dates for PAX itself.
I think that what might be happening is there might be some name personalities or something like that are there that or Valve employees or something like that you challenge somebody like that. I'm not sure. Though I wouldn't be surprised if we get some more details when the actual event is happening. But also in some respects, it doesn't really matter, because it's just specific to the people who are happening there. But the more important thing I think is just the contents of the decks, because we can learn a lot from that.
Who do you think the champion will be?
Yeah, that's the thing. A lot of people are speculating that there may be something at the International after all to crown the champion, maybe a show match or something, but that's pure speculation, of course.
I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of possibilities there. I mean, it depends on who they want to fly out there. I know that there are a good number of named personalities, like whether they're card gamers or Valve people or Dota players, etc., that are in Artifact. Like, I wouldn't be surprised. I think we're pretty much sure that Day 9 is playing the game right now. I wouldn't be surprised if Purge is playing the game. We have good suggestions that Sir Action Slacks is in there. I mean, any of these people would be great to play against, and I'm sure there's more too that we don't even know about.
Mm-hmm. I think we even had confirmation that Admiral Bulldog was playing it at one point as well, but he doesn't seem to be able to leave the country ever.
Yeah, that's rough beats.
Feels bad, man.
Feels bad indeed. Okay, so let's talk about the decks. One thing that stuck out, and this is something that I talked about with Anger when it first came out, that stuck out to both of us, was actually about rarity of heroes, because this has been an outstanding question of exactly how the rarity of heroes fits into the PAX. Because you can imagine like one world in which you get access to all the heroes to begin with, or you open them up in packs like normal cards.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not sure yet how that works. In the display that we have right now, there are no rarity symbols on the heroes, but we actually notice that they have rarity symbols on the signature cards. So, for instance, we're like the first deck we're going to look at is the Aggro deck, and so Sorlakan still doesn't have a rarity symbol on it. Actually, that maybe just even emphasizes the rarity symbols because maybe people didn't notice these. But if they're the little artifact icon that's at the bottom there, and they correspond to the different colors of the rarities, with copper being the common cards, the silver ones being uncommon, and then the gold ones being rare. So I thought I wanted to ask you guys, given just this visual information, what is your prediction about heroes now? Is it you get them in packs, and that the maybe the rarity is associated with the card, like the signature card, or maybe it's something else that that you get them separately and they just happen to have a rarity associated with them? Let's start with you, Anger. What do you think?
Well, I think that maybe because if you look at the leak from Cyclops, the way Pugna is there is very different from the way it's seen while playing Artifact. So I think the rarity on the hero card might be hidden on the way they look when you play. But when you're in the deck builder, then you can see the rarity, because on the Pugna card you can see it's gold. But I don't know.
Yeah, I agree with that, because you can actually see an animation in the game where the hero cards transform into the things that we see here with the inventory and the big health and attack numbers. Before that, it's actually a reduced version like the ones we see in the deck builder. And those do seem to have rarities on them.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to agree. I think that there's two different visualizations, because when I first saw the Cyclops leak stuff, I was like, oh, they just reworked the visuals. That seems cool, and it looks nice because you get a bigger art. But the downside is you don't have the slots for the equipment, the health, and the attack are smaller, so might be a little bit harder to play with. But I realize now, after seeing this especially, that there's just two different versions and visualizations of the cards. So interesting to note there. So they probably do still have the rarities. But yes, let's just launch into talking about the decks specifically then, because there is a lot of really sweet stuff going on here. First one is the Aggro Black-Blue deck. Hit the opponent's tower hard and fast is the one-line description. Your troops are vulnerable. You must deploy your resources widely, exploiting the weaknesses of your enemies since they can't match their strength head-on. Dimensional Portal provides the raw materials you'll need. Assault Ladders and Discipline of Nevermore provide the support you'll need to decimate the enemy tower. So there's a few cards here that we have seen before and have not seen before. So the one to begin with, Sorlakan, we've seen a number of times already. Nothing new in that respect. Assault Tower, we were pretty sure that this one was Sorlakan's specific card, right? Like I don't know if we had confirmation of that, but
I believe we did, because it already had the Premier card symbol on it in the gameplay.
Yeah. I was pretty sure too. So those are the ones that we've seen before. We've also seen the Dimensional Portal. This is the 4-cost blue spell that provides 3 melee creeps, which seems pretty strong to me, honestly, now that I've kind of like thought about it and seen some of the other cards more. Like, especially like combining with something like the Assault Tower seems like a great way to just plow down a tower with a lot of quickness.
Mm-hmm. And something that I have noticed, which I didn't see before when Dimensional Portal was shown in the gameplay, now that we have a much sharper picture of it, you can actually see the long-haired creep lady that we saw in the promotional poster summoning the portal here. That's the one that I personally believe to be Alexa. I have a whole video on that whole theory, but may be wrong, but I'm pretty certain.
One other interesting thing is that the portal is to something that seems very radiant, but where they are summoning that portal seems to be more dire. If you look at the formations, they're very much like dire towers. I don't know. But I don't know if that means anything or it's just...
Means that the portal is high value because they get to teleport people from the radiant side to the dire, I'd say.
Yeah. Yeah, the definitely one of the things that is kind of this outstanding mystery about the lore, and I expect that we'll learn a lot more about this, is that there's strong suggestions that the connection between there's something going on with the creeps, that they're becoming more intelligent or something like that, that we see a wider variety of them. And I mean, both of you guys have commented in some of your previous videos about, Kenna specifically possibly being some relationship with the creeps as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll be interested to see how that turns out. But there's a few new cards in this specifically that will be worth talking about as well. The first one is the Keen Folk Musket. This is a 7 cost weapon, or that you buy from like in the item shop. Of course, you equip it to a hero. It has +2 attack, and it has the active ability deal 2 damage to a unit, and that's active every 2 turns. So this seems like a mediocre weapon to me. I mean, I'm not too excited by this specifically. I mean, I imagine it has utility if there's a lot of high value, small stats minions, but it doesn't like 2 attack for a 7 cost weapon doesn't seem too impactful to me.
Yeah, honestly, it's crap. Like, I think it's the basic weapon card is only like 3 gold, and it gives +2 attack.
Yeah, that was my thought.
Over twice as much to buy this item, and it only lets you deal 2 damage to 1 unit every 2 rounds. That's so crap.
I honestly disagree, simply because it's not like it says a random unit. It seems like you can actually choose the unit that you apply those 2 damage to. So realistically, it gives whichever hero you put this on damage output of 4 attack every 2 rounds. And the thing is that if a unit isn't blocked by one of your creatures and it would survive the round completely unscathed, you can still put 2 damage on that unit, even if it isn't being blocked from a range.
Well, yeah, I guess. But I don't think it's worth 7 gold. Like, I agree it's good, but not worth 7 gold in my opinion. But I agree it can be used in some smart ways.
Yeah, I think that there's definitely some really sweet utility with the 2 attack.
Really nice to finish off a unit.
Yeah, or like, like there's a blocker in the way of you have like an axe or something like this that you want to plow in to it, and having a stupid little creep in the way that is blocking you would be a pain in the ass. One of the things that I'll actually hint on right now that I think is interesting, that I kind of like deduced from some of the other cards, is how the way that active abilities works, but whether or not you have a chance to activate them when they first come into play. And I actually think that they don't let you do that. You have to charge it up to begin with.
Summoning sickness.
Yeah, something like that. The reason why, honestly, look, we're going to be talking later about Chen. The Chen has the ability to control an enemy creep, and this is an active 4 ability. And to me, that ability would seem totally busted if you could activate that the first turn of the game. And so I personally think that it probably works, that you have to charge it up to begin with, which I think is a pretty big downside to this. Keen Folk musket, because the specific application of saying like, okay, I play it, activate it, kill off a unit that's in my way. Well, like that first turn seems like a really high value tempo kind of play, but I don't think that you're going to have access to that.
It's possible, but I think you do, and active abilities can be used instead of a card. So you would play the card, and you can only play the ability after your opponent gets to play a card. So perhaps they get to respond to that card before you get to cast the ability during this next turn within the same phase.
So you think initiatives work with abilities the same way they work with playing cards?
Yeah, that would be my guess, personally.
Yeah, that's my guess too. That it's basically just taking turns, taking actions, and like items, activated abilities, and cards all function the same.
One thing about the summoning sickness, because heroes, you don't play them in the action phase. They are deployed in the hero deployment phase. So I wonder if there's a difference then between deploying a hero in the hero deployment phase and whether it has summoning sickness or not, and then just playing an improvement card or a creature card or an item card in the action phase. Like if they, like how if there was summoning sickness, would it then differentiate between the deployment phase and action phase?
I don't think there is any summoning sickness, because we've seen cases of heroes and creatures being blocked by newly summoned creatures that still get to do damage within the following action phase, combat.
I think that, like what she's saying, like summoning sickness is the idea of like the activated ability specifically. Just the question of whether or not you can have it active when it first comes into play. I think that is what is it. That's what you mean, right, Anger?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's just wanted to make sure. But yeah, we know that's how combat works, is that units are active the second that they come in. It's just a question of whether or not the activated abilities do. I mean, like, this is still like conjecture on both sides. We'll have to see. With this particular card, I don't think that it would be overpowered if it functioned that way. The one that I have seen that just seems particularly worrisome is Chen, and this Econ Ramp deck that we're going to talk about shortly seems pretty powerful, but we'll have to actually see that. That's definitely one of the points that I'm really curious about. But the last card in this deck that I want to talk about, that we've shown that's a new one, is the Disciple of Nevermore. This is a 3-cost, 4-attack unit with 4 health and -2 armor.
Yeah.
And it has the ability, other allies have +2 attack and -2 armor. I wanted to start this off by actually asking you two to just explain briefly what Nevermore is, because this is one of the lore topics that you guys will know more about than I will.
Anger, you want to take this one?
I don't know much about Shadow Fiend. Nevermore is Shadow Fiend. I only know that he's on Earth to like steal souls and give them to Lucifer or whatever. Is it Doom or is it somebody else? I don't remember.
That's the thing. Nevermore is actually an interesting character because he is one of the top demons, basically. But on the other hand, in the lore, it is implied that he has been forced to serve other demons such as Lucifer or Doom, or even Shadow Demon, and that he does serve a hidden master. We just don't know the identity of that master for sure. It's just implied to be either Shadow Demon or Lucifer, or perhaps someone else.
Yeah, so this doesn't tell us like so much about it. I don't believe from the current hero list that's theorized by the community, given the copyright information that we have, I don't think that Shadow Fiend is on the list. But so just an interesting plant though, and maybe that is wrong in the Shadow Fiend.
Yeah, what I find most interesting is this passive ability that this Disciple of Nevermore has, because it is an adaptation of Nevermore's passive ability in Dota 2, which is Presence of the Dark Lord, which does reduce armor as well.
Interesting.
Yeah, so in a way, what's interesting about this is that this card does seem to serve a similar purpose here, but they didn't go with Nevermore as a hero. So either this is supposed to foreshadow something, see what I did there? But on the other hand, it is a really nice early card, which woefully gets one shot by creeps.
Yeah, this is really vulnerable, but the thing that I would emphasize with this card is that, like, if you have a clear lane and then you're able to just, like, if there's nothing in the way of it, you plop this down, you are going to wreck the tower real fast. Because giving all of your, it itself has 4 attack, it gives all of your other units 4 attack. It's not just your creeps, like your heroes full attack. I mean, even just strategic things where you place it in a lane so that your hero trades up or something like that can be great. But yeah, like, definitely, creating all this vulnerability on your side is going to be a problem, and I imagine that there's going to be times that this will turn on you and suddenly your whole side is wiped. But when it's good, it is just going to demolish the other side.
Exactly. This is like the typical aggro card, really.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Amps up your damage, gimps your defense. You better hope to have more units on your side of the board to,
you will, though.
Capitalize on it.
With Dimensional Portal, you summon 3 creeps, and then you
Yeah,
that specific curve of, like let's say that there's a lane that doesn't have very much action on your opponent's side, and you go turn 1, Disciple of Nevermore, turn 2, Dimensional Portal, can just, like, by turn 3, your opponent's tower is down. That's sick.
I actually, you gotta commend Valve being able to really get across the feel of a deck with just, 5 cards here.
Oh, yeah,
exposing some of the synergies right away.
Well, the thing that I find really interesting about it is, like, there's a combination of those sorts of synergies that it gives away, and there's also these questions that there's just, like, enough of a hint of, like, we see this, like, oh, Nevermore, Disciple of Nevermore, is Shadow Fiend in the game? Or, like, the Keenfolk Musket, it's like, oh, like does it work like this, or does it work like that? It gives us, like, enough information that we can, like, puzzle about it and think about it, and it definitely gives us, though, an appetite for, I want to see what more of these cards look like.
Yeah, and just one more thing, because you guys shat on the Keenfolk Musket so much, this will definitely stack. So the minus armor combined with the 2 attack from the musket can do way more damage.
Oh, okay, sure. Yeah.
But the minus armor is on yourself, though, not on the enemy.
Yeah.
Set
it up for your opponent to kill your Disciple of Nevermore faster.
You get a mirror match in the gauntlet, I mean.
Oh yeah, I mean, definitely if you stack these, though, like, it just amplifies both the advantages and disadvantages. Okay, so that's good for the first deck. Let's talk about Econ Ramp. This is one of the ones that I think had the most new cards in it. Anger, how about you read this one for us?
Oh man, okay. Protect your position as you pile up heaps of gold. Cast Payday to double your gold, then double it again. Your money and your mana bring colossal beasts like the Thunderhide pack to bear on your opponent. To bear on your opponent? Okay. It is only a matter of time before your immense resources and powerful creeps overwhelm your enemies. If they don't beat you early, they will lose.
Here comes the money.
So, let's start off by talking about Chen. This is the hero that they preview here. That is new. We have not seen this one yet. 4/9.
We did see the artwork for it, but not the card.
Yeah, we did. This was one that we expected was in here as well. But definitely the text is new, which is an important part of the card. It's a 4/9. It's a green hero, and it has the ability, the Holy Persuasion, active for get control of an enemy creep. Let's start with you, Cymen. Is this card busted?
The thing with Econ Ramp is that they're always busted if they get to play the game. Basically, if they get to play out their plan and get to the place where they need to be, where they, get all the resources they need, get all the creatures and cards they need, they are definitely going to own the late game. That's the whole point of it.
Yeah, I think, though, just like the idea of being able to control enemy creeps, for free, like not costing a card, seems so powerful if you can activate this a couple of times over the course of the game. One of my actual specific questions would be about how the active turn counter works while a hero is dead. Because, like, Chen, I mean, he's not totally squishy, but he's pretty squishy. And he's gonna die like in reasonable amount of times, and like those times when he's out of the game, does that count towards the timer, or does it lag?
Well, in game in Dota, the cooldowns go down while you're dead, so I don't know.
Good point.
Yeah, and it's a round timer. It's not a round alive timer. So I would say they definitely go down. You got to keep those cooldowns in mind. Otherwise, when he's back and he's got it ready, you may be in a world of hurt if you've got that powerful creep. Some Thunderhide on your board.
But do we know for sure that you can control any creature card? Or is it only creeps?
It says get control of
Because
an enemy
they
creep.
haven't...
Actually, that's a good point. It could
like
just mean
sometimes they
specifically
differentiate between creature and creeps, and sometimes they say creeps about all the different creatures and creeps.
True, but on the copyright catalog, as far as I know, even human cards that are not heroes are being registered as creeps. So it's either just heroes and everything else is a creep, which I believe personally, or they do differentiate. But so far, we have not seen anything like Magic or Eternal where they have certain titles like Warrior Minotaur or Stealthy Goblin, something like that. I think they're just all creeps if they're not heroes.
Yeah, I think that's my guess too, is that the differentiation is you have units is the term for anything that's like a card that's in play. Like you look at the Keenfolk rifle, it says deal 2 damage to a unit.
Yeah.
Which I think means both heroes and any kind of non-hero unit that's in play, like creeps or generic ones or ones that you're playing from your hand. And then within that, you have creep and hero that you differentiate as specific ones. I'm pretty sure that's what it means, which suggests that this can steal any type of creep. So even something like a Thunderhide or whatever, could be stolen with Chen, which makes him like super scary, even as like when he dies, because if your opponent plays out anything that's large, then you can deploy him into the right lane to be able to take control of a valuable creep that's just spawned.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I think that would be very powerful.
He strikes me as really good. Hand of God is his signature card. This is another one that's really seems very good. 7 cost, fully heal each ally, give allies damage immunity this round. I think that this means just in the same board as well. Yeah. In general, I think unless otherwise specified, I always assume they mean in the same board.
Mm-hmm.
And this seems like a great way to turn around a board state into, just going from even behind to just decimating your opponent in one turn.
I think one thing that I think is really interesting about this card is that you can see Rix in the background.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Perhaps that's Rix or another Wool, but yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. Interesting.
Not hard to tell.
What do you think about the card, Anger? Do you think that this one's good?
Well, since it costs 7 mana, I don't know. I think I'm just biased because I like more early aggression and not really like the super late game decks and really expensive things. I'd rather just buy or like just get really aggressive early. But I feel like of course it's good, but in my opinion, like the mana cost is a little bit too high.
That makes sense.
Like, because and if you're gonna use it, it would like if you had like 10 creeps, it would be really good, like in one lane. But I don't know. It's very situational, but I don't really feel like it's overpowered. It's a good card, but not overpowered.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to see how people use it pretty much, because it is pretty high mana. I mean, you start with 3 mana, so this is like on the 4th turn or something. I mean, on the other hand, that means that Chen perhaps gets to use his Persuasion for the 2nd time. That's when his cooldown is over. Perhaps people will use this more depending on how well they're doing to just keep their board alive. because they're still waiting for that late game for those items, etc.?
I imagine that the first time that you use Hand of God, a lot of the time is just going to be kind of like a almost like a stalling sort of technique to just like have one combat kind of work in your favor, get a few extra gold, get to the next turn, and then sort of turn on some of your the more powerful stuff. Speaking of more powerful stuff, though, Horn of the Alpha. This is a 25 cost. Equip hero has +4 health. That by itself, not a great rate. I've seen better. But it has
That's
an active
25 gold.
Yeah, man, that is about 6 gold per health or something like that. Not exactly.
That's one of the most valuable item cards we've seen thus far.
It is. We have seen at least one other 25 gold one, but this is definitely up there. But it has an active ability beyond that, just the health, of course, and that is summon, active 2, summon a Thunderhide pack. And the Thunderhide package, then our next card, is an 8 cost, 14/14 Siege 6. So just an absolute giant monster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Thunderhides are ancient creeps in Dota. Those are some of the most powerful creatures on the whole playing field. So,
yeah,
I'm not surprised to see them being powerful here.
Oh,
Big
for sure.
beasties.
This definitely, if you're able to cape this and play and not die, just for 4 turns or something like this, you can very easily take over the game by just shitting out these Thunderhide packs.
Yeah, and one problem with this is that with a late game deck, I think it's harder to get gold earlier, but since it is with black, and black has a lot of gold boosting cards, like for example, the next one we're gonna look at, like that was my only concern, that how are you gonna get 25 gold to get this item? And if you have to save up for 25, that means you have to neglect getting any other item card before you do. But do you think that's...
Yeah, cast Payday to double your gold, and then double it again. I suppose that's the answer. You gotta play those cards to double your gold.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, and it'll be one of the elements of this deck that it will be interesting to see how it plays out in what mechanisms that you have for that, because the way in which you generate gold is killing your opponent's stuff. And, in order to get to 25, you have to kill a lot of stuff. You have to kill, it's every creep is 2 and every hero is 5. So that's 5 heroes, for example. So that takes a while. And then also you have the tension of being able to buy the items that you want from the shop when you want them. Because, for instance, you get to your 25, you're like, yeah, man, I did it. Put it together, you get to your shop, and then you happen to have one of your cheaper items show up as what's available to you right there. What do? Do you just have to bite the bullet and be like, okay, I guess I get this, shitty Keenfolk rifle or something, and have to make do, so that's kind of a bit of a tension that I think will be difficult to navigate.
And one other thing is that while you are saving up gold for the Horn of the Alpha, your enemy might have already bought a shit ton of attack items already. And for example, the aggro deck, they would decimate the Econ Ramp, I think.
Yeah, I think that there's going to be some games that, especially something, powerful curves, like the Disciple Nevermore into the Dimensional Portal, you're just dead. If you're
okay, Chen can, every 4 rounds, Chen can take one of your creeps. Okay, take my -2 armor creep. I don't care, go ahead.
See how that works out for you.
Still, I feel like this is actually pretty powerful, because realistically, you really only need to kill one hero and perhaps a couple creeps, because Payday is only a 3 mana card, and you get 3 mana on your first turn for each board.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Oh, yeah. If you can really, if you get a base of gold and they're not pressuring you very much, if you get a couple of copies of the Payday, and it can really spiral out of control really quickly.
Yeah, you can easily have 20 gold by the end of the second round.
Not easily. You have to actually draw the cards, and then you would actually have to kill something that's worth that amount of gold. And it's not... you won't necessarily kill heroes the first 2 rounds, unless you're playing...
and you have to not be dead.
And for example, Chen, he has 4 attack, and it is a green-black deck, so you probably have PA or something, or a black card that has a lot of damage. But even then, the first round you only have 3 heroes out, and so does the enemy. So you can only potentially kill 3 heroes, but there's no way you will do that the first round.
You forget the heart of the cards.
You feel one with the ramp deck. You're just like, yeah, man, everything's gonna match up perfectly. Everything will be in the right lane and kill all their stuff. Double all my gold, go off. It'll be sick. But I mean, this is one of the things though that's kind of an element of these your ramp decks and other games is that you, in some ways, have to draw your cards in the right order too. And if they don't really fit together, and you get sort of all your expensive stuff early, and all of your cheap stuff doesn't kind of come up online, it'll be a little bit inconsistent in that respect. So we'll have to see how that all fits together. But this is one that I'm very interested to see mechanically how it fits together, because it feels like there are some missing pieces from that we haven't seen yet of what their early game will sort of look like.
Man, I just imagine biting my teeth out on one of those Thunderhide packs, and then just Chen heals them fully. Feels bad. Yeah, that's gonna be the play.
Yeah, that's the dream. Okay, let's talk about control.
And every 2 rounds?
Yeah, I mean, if Chen is able to just stick around and pick up creeps every time, or and you get the horn active, like it's gonna take over the game. But whether or not Anger gets there first with her Disciples of Nevermores and Sorlicons just getting busy. Okay, control. Blue, red. How about you take this one, Simon?
Control the board until you knock the opponent out with a masterful blow. Conflagration sweeps the field, and Thunder God's Wrath cracks the weakened heroes. Your ever-growing force of Red Mist Pillagers threatens immediate victory if your opponent drops their guard for even a moment. If you're ready, you are ready with Time of Triumphs. Prepare to crush them if they try to stall. I'm liking this one, I gotta tell you.
Yeah, this one has some interesting stuff. I'm interested to see how this one fits together. But let's go through the cards. So first, Zeus. We've seen this card already, before, a bunch of times before. 3/7 with the static field ability, deal 1 piercing damage to Zeus's enemy neighbors after you play a blue spell. Then
one thing I noticed is that since it's piercing damage, it ignores armor, right?
Yep.
So would that mean that the Nevermore creeps, or the Nevermore creep, the minus armor, that it only deals 1 damage still, right?
Oh, maybe. Interesting.
You mean it may ignore negative armor buffs as well?
Yeah, that's yeah, and like with Luna's thing that deals 3 piercing damage, does that mean it still only deals 3, or does it deal 5?
That's a really good question. I mean, I can't answer it right now, but yeah, that's really fascinating. It would definitely make a really big difference, because you could imagine that if you have a Zeus match up against the aggro deck, then there could be some really brutal turns. Just like, okay, I play my card draw spell, all of your stuff is dead. So that's really interesting in that. But let's talk then about Thunder God's Wrath. This is one we have seen this one before too, but it's his signature card. 7 cost, deal 4 damage to each enemy hero in all lanes. This is pretty sweet, and I mean that's can often be 20 damage with just 1 card, and really turn around a lot of board states.
That's true, and it's pretty much a direct adaptation of Thunder God's Wrath from Dota 2 as well. You can't run from heaven.
But yeah, this seems super. Like Zeus himself, like the body, it's fine. Like definitely not impressive. But this spell seems wicked.
Just for those people who do not play card games, he is not actually admiring Zeus's physique. He's talking about the stats.
Oh yeah, man.
What do you think of Thunder God's Wrath versus Hand of God? Like, do you think one is more overpowered than the other? Or
so I think that the Hand of God is pretty situational, right? Like you have to have a pretty good board, and it has to be also like a board where it's sort of relevant too. Like if you're ahead on board, I think that Hand of God doesn't do a ton. Like maybe you take a little bit less damage and heal a couple of your units, but like who really cares? in certain situations. Well, I mean, sometimes it'll be totally board swinging, and you're way behind, and it'll get you up to really buying a whole free turn, and canceling out what your opponent's doing. Thunder God's Wrath, though, has a really solid baseline. It always does the same thing. It's really hard for your opponent to play around it.
And you also get a lot of gold from it.
Oh, yeah, that's
like if you do
good point.
4 damage to so many heroes and then you kill them all too, that's so much gold.
Yeah, I mean, if you kill like just 2 heroes, that's 10 gold. That's insane.
Hopefully, yeah.
So, yeah, I think that Thunder God's Wrath is actually a very interesting card. We have to see it. With all of this stuff, it's like it's theory crafting. We have to play with the actual cards in order to know how they feel and stuff. Like as much as we've all think about this game and talk about this game and make content about this game a lot, none of us have actually played the game. So
Yeah.
so we're all guessing about this. But I guess that this card seems legit.
Yeah, especially with the obvious synergy that they're exposing in the very first sentence, where Conflagration is supposed to weaken the enemies and Thunder God's Wrath finishes them off.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways to combine this. I mean, like you also have this with Zeus, gives to 5 damage, all of which is piercing. Definitely, there's going to be some situations where it'll be devastating. I mean, other people have mentioned that there's a synergy with Crystal Maiden and Zeus as well. That if you can get them both active at the same time, then you're getting mana at the same time that you're casting your spells and you're pinging off your opponent's shit. So that can lots of really cool stuff that can be happening there. But anyway, let's move on. Let's actually check next about Conflagration. Anger, how about you read this one?
After the combat phase, if Red Mist Pillager dealt battle damage to a tower this round, summon a Red Mist Pillager. You asked me to read, right?
Yeah.
I
I suggested Conflagration, but you went for the Red Mist Pillager. But we'll talk about the Red Mist Pillager. This is a great card too. It's fine. It's totally fine. Okay, so Red Mist Pillager, 5 cost as well. This is super like the stats are fragile, but this could definitely if you have a free lane, it could get out of hand over a course of a couple of turns. And in my opinion, it's like it seems like the first thing you're like, oh, this seems like really powerful. It could do so much, but I think that this is actually not that great because of how it dies to a creep.
Yeah, I agree. It's crap.
It's actually weird that it costs 5 mana. I mean, that's a turn 3 card.
Yeah, it seems really low impact for turn 3 compared to the other things we've seen.
Like even the shitty musket kills this.
But still, I think we should take a look at Conflagration in connection to this, because the idea is that you're supposed to sweep the field, so the Red Mist Pillagers get free hits on the tower and their passive ability procs. So I believe the game plan here is to really empty the opponent's lane, after you've stalled them for a while, and then just fill up the board with Red Mist Pillagers when it's free.
But you only get, best case scenario, if you only have one of these on the battlefield, you only get one more Red Mist Pillager each round. It's so crap.
Yeah. But that's the whole control gameplay, basically. You're supposed to keep the enemy at bay for a while, and then when it comes to the late game, you hit hard and you flood the board as well with this.
So one thing that to point out, it says, so after the combat phase, if Red Mist Pillager dealt damage to a tower this turn, it could mean that if you have 2 Red Mist Pillagers, then you get 4, and if you have 4, you get 8.
Yeah, definitely.
Fuck, I'm so dumb. I didn't think of that.
It's fine. It's an interaction. That's but the thing is, though, that's still the point of it being fragile as a base body, and that you need all this time to put together. Like you compare the fact that this dies to a creep is. To me, one of the things I'm the most worried about. I mean, as a win condition, I get it. It can definitely, you have total control of the game through other means. Yes, this can definitely clean up if it's given a free lane. I just think that it's going to... actually, the one thing particularly about this is it would be really good at killing Ancients. like if you're in a lane where you're really dominating and they're just getting totally out of hand, you'll go from kill the tower and then next turn basically kill the ancient right afterwards because you're just so far ahead. And that's actually, I think, hard to do in most conventional decks because dealing that 80 damage is so difficult.
Yeah, this deck definitely seems to focus on single lane domination, especially again with Conflagration being a board improvement, so that stays on a single board. And Time of Triumph, again, probably only affecting a single board for those hard-hitting moments.
Yeah. Okay. So let's quickly read Conflagration because this is one that we talked about a bit. I think we talked about generally the function of it. So 5 cost Conflagration. It's an improvement. Blue card. Deal 2 damage to each enemy before the action phase. That this is before the action phase is really impactful because it means you can clear out stuff that you can set up before you actually get to combat. Your opponent does have a chance to respond to it though. So if you play this, then they can play some healing spell or something like that on your units before it actually procs. But then, so that's kind of how that would function. And you can imagine that if you have a couple of those stacking, you just are now dominating that lane. Like it's impossible for them to basically play anything into that lane.
Oh my god! So if you have lots of these stacking, and then you have the Red Mist Pillager, like every round, like no matter what he puts in the lane, they will just die.
Basically, yeah.
But what if they play the creep after the? If they play the creep in the action phase, then this only deals
so the way
damage
that
before the action phase.
Yeah, exactly. You would be able to dodge this damage by playing new creatures within the action phase.
Yeah, maybe I think I misspoke slightly before. Yeah, so it's before the action phase. So the fact, though, that you one thing actually that's important about improvements, that it's a little bit of a mechanical nuance, is you can play improvements in any lane. So if you have a blue hero in lane 1, and you can play Conflagration on lane 2, so then when you move over to lane 2, Conflagration triggers. So that's actually a really useful sort of mechanical element to it, because if you play Conflagration in your own lane, it's not going to trigger before the actual combat happens.
Imagine one Conflagration card against the Shadow Fiend creep.
Oh yeah, clean things up pretty fast. Yeah, I mean we're noticing here that the cycle of Nevermore has like really high highs and really low lows. That's for sure.
Yeah, but one thing to keep in mind as well is that you can play this board improvement from any board on any board. So the action phase on one board could be already over and the enemy can't even respond, and you play Conflagration there so it deals damage at the beginning of the next action phase. So that's guaranteed damage.
Yep. Indeed. Okay, and then finally, Time of Triumph is our last spell in the control deck. 8 cost, modify allied heroes, that's all of them, with +4 attack, +4 armor, +4 health, +4 cleave, +4 retaliate, and +4 siege. Okay.
That's a powerful red card.
This gives you 4 of everything. Is I think that the summation here. So just summarize for people who might not know what these things mean. So cleave. I don't think that we have confirmation yet exactly what it means, but my guess, and we're going to talk about this more in the next deck as well, is that it means you deal that much, your cleave number, to all like the available targets that are not the one that your hero is directly targeting. So, for instance,
it spills over to its neighbors.
Yeah, that's my guess.
We have almost confirmation though, because in one of the screenshots of Sven, you can see that because all heroes, whatever they're attacking, there's an arrow pointing to what they're attacking. But with Sven, he has 3.
The arrow is different, and it points to 3 units instead.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's a really safe guess, but we still don't have like firm confirmation quite yet. So, but
that's be brave, man. You gotta.
Hey, I like to be exact with it. You know, people come here for the hard facts, getting educated. Want to make sure that we have everything nice and tidy with this. So and exact. But anyway, so retaliate also this one we do know what it does. This is that when something attacks your hero, then they attack back by that much, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then siege is extra damage to towers. I guess we also have the earlier card Thunderhide Pact that has the siege damage as well. But yeah, so ultimately though, this means all of your heroes, like once again, all of your heroes get all of these abilities: 4 attack, 4 health, 4 armor, 4 cleave, 4 retaliate, 4 siege. That is a lot of attacks, and it is going to just totally dominate the game if you're able to get this off.
This card is aptly named.
Yes, Time of Triumph for sure. I can definitely see that. Yeah, just surviving long enough to get this in play, and suddenly all of your team is basically invulnerable.
This is definitely big. Like, this is one of those late game cards that's supposed to completely dominate the board and spill that damage over to the tower. Again, like a single board domination card.
But we will have to wait to see how, like, I don't know, 8 mana.
Indeed.
It looks like it's a lot, but at the same time 8 isn't really that big a number. I think it's hard to say now if it's overpowered or not, because we don't know, like, if 8 mana is something you're never gonna reach because games are over after like 3 turns anyway. Like, of course not, but we don't know.
I don't think so, simply because there's actually no cap to the mana pool. Like, it just keeps growing. I think there will be some longer games that will be very crazy.
Yeah, but like, if it's like, it's a good card, but whether it's OP or not, because we don't know exactly how long most games are gonna be.
I think the point of, like, whether is this like a late game play, or is this kind of like a mid game play? It makes a really big difference in valuing something like this. The one thing also that I would say about this too, that depends on my evaluation of it, we haven't seen a ton of cards that say something specifically like kill this hero. We know that PA's signature card is condemn your opponent's hero and discard a card, but depending on the number of cards that are like that will make a big difference in how good this card is, because now your unit is really overstated. All of your heroes are really overstated, and killing them through conventional damage is going to be really difficult. So if Black has a handful of kill opponent's hero type cards, then you can actually fight back from this relatively efficiently. But if you don't have that, then it'll be a lot more difficult.
Yeah, we'll have to see how many silence cards there are, or condemn an item, stuff like that. But yeah, I don't think that there will be too many variations of take this hero out of the game for a while, because that's really what the whole game revolves around.
Yeah. And also, even with the silence one, like, we don't know for sure yet how that works. I could imagine a world in which the silence card removes any sort of additional abilities that are modified onto a hero. So there's a few different meanings potentially of what silence could mean, but that's a mechanic that we need to learn more about. Okay, last deck, Armor-Cleave. This is the red-green deck. It says that you dominate the lane with heavily armored and hard-hitting troops. Cleave allows your heroes to spread damage around to all your foes, cutting a bloody swath through your enemies. Break the symmetry of grand melee by deploying armored units against squishy, unarmored enemies. It is only a matter of time before your army is the only one left standing. You like this one?
I'm liking this one.
So how about you start off then by telling us about your thoughts on Axe? A card we've seen before, but given what we've seen more cards now, what is your evaluation of him?
Well, first of all, Axe has a great body and great stats. He has very high health from the get-go. He gets 2 armor on top. That means that throughout the first few turns, the creeps can't even touch him. He gets to deal 7 damage, which is still in the, in the high points for, base stats, considering that you can still buff that. It is definitely a very powerful early game card that you will not have to put items on to make it useful.
Yeah, Axe seems ridiculous to me. Just in terms of the raw stats of this guy, he's insane. You know, he can, like of the heroes, for instance, that we've seen so far, he can one-shot Zeus, he can one-shot Sorlikon. With any additional attacks, he can one-shot Shen. Like we've seen a bunch of other heroes too, and most of them that we've seen top out at about 9 health. And so with any bonus, it feels like Axe just tramples over basically anybody else.
Pretty much.
But is he OP, or is it balanced by the fact that he doesn't have an ability?
Oh, you're really looking for those OP cards to make your first deck, huh?
I mean, that's your job, right? As a card game player, it's like, hey, what state I'm playing that.
Yeah, you want to break the game.
I mean, like, it's really hard to evaluate that without actually touching them, but definitely it's something that he has less utility going into the later game for sure, especially because, like, ideally, if your duck is functioning on all cylinders, you should be able to play a bunch of improvements on your lanes, play a bunch of items on your heroes, and as a result, the base stats only matter a lot in the early game, I imagine. But still, like, being able to establish a really good initiative on some of the early turns, killing your opponent's hero on turn 1, now you have a gold advantage. Now you can buy some more, like, you're buying items in the first shopping phase when your opponent isn't. You're able to snowball that, I think, a little bit too. I don't like, it's hard to tell for sure whether or not this is what I would say is that I'm not sure whether it's OP or not. I guarantee people will say it's OP. That I will say for sure.
Of course. Anytime.
But I don't think it is, actually, since he doesn't have an ability. It's not as visible, like how much weaker that makes him.
Yeah, it's hard to tell, but I think that I do know that people are going to be like, man, he's got so many stats. How does this balance? Valve, please.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, exactly. He played it first turn. I didn't know. I couldn't do anything.
Yeah, I just spent all game feeding into it, and they won somehow.
Yeah, I just put more and more creeps on that board, but the 2 armor just couldn't do it.
We're OP. Please nerf.
Yeah.
Okay, so Berserker's Call. This is his signature card. Choose an allied red hero. It battles its enemy neighbors. We believe that means
that's huge.
That it just, like, causes them all to attack at that moment. It's kind of like you do a combat immediately, or it's not that it redirects the target. It's that you actually fight right now. Correct?
I believe that it really does trigger, like, an early combat phase, basically.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. And I think that's pretty damn huge, especially when you have a beast like Axe himself on the board. Or maybe Bristleback. I mean, Bristleback gets armor passively for all the heroes that he kills.
Or how about how it works is that the battle doesn't happen when you play it, but the attack arrows in front of the creeps, they all point towards the one you have used the spell on, maybe.
Yeah, and that's my question, is whether it works that way or whether it works like, do you trigger a mini combat or do you trigger a redirection effect? And if it's what you're saying, Anger, then I think that this card is actually not that good. But if it's how Cymen thinks that it works, that it, like, causes that battle.
And considering it's 6 mana, it's probably what Cymen said. Since it wouldn't, I don't know, 6 mana is quite a lot.
Yeah, I think this is more of a mid-range deck, which is about buffing your strong early game heroes. But I think this deck would not succeed against, like, a super late game deck.
Well, especially if they're able to pick things apart with target removal spells and be able to debuff or something like that. I'm sure there are ways to neutralize threats like Axe. But we have a weapon here as well from the item deck for this particular deck. This is Blade of the Vigil. It is a common, and it has equipped hero has +2 attack and +2 cleave, and it costs 7. Way better, in my opinion, than other 7-cost weapons that we have talked about in the course of this cast, because, you know, it has a bigger impact and getting that cleave damage built up. I imagine, especially, that if you stack cleave damage on one hero, it can get really out of hand, because you're able to just totally like in the same way that we're talking about with like Conflagrate, where there's just nothing can stick on the other side of the board. That's something that I can imagine would happen when you get multiple cleave bonuses on one hero.
But have we seen any spells that gives cleave other than the one in the other deck? Because to my knowledge, it's only this card and the other spell and Sven's ability.
Well, I'm sure we'll see others. I mean, Sven has it naturally, apparently.
But
yeah, I mean, well, we can just take a look at the next card even. So how about you read the next card there for us, Anger?
Are you trying to make me make fun of myself?
I mean, you can make fun of yourself all you want. I'm just saying.
If there is an allied red hero in this lane, all heroes have +2 cleave. There you go.
So I feel like there might be some more cards that give cleave. I don't know. Hard to tell, but this is also another card that gives cleave.
Damn wrecked.
Wow, Neon didn't know you were a bully.
Oh no, bully!
I'm just reading the cards here. I'm here calling balls and strikes. I'm just saying, like, this is another card that exists that gives cleave that's right beside the one that we were just reading. So
Bible
I don't know.
thump. Anyways, this is a much cheaper board improvement. Like, this will definitely help in the early game as well. Like, let's just say you put Axe somewhere in the lane on your first turn. That's a 3-mana card. If you draw it, you get to play it right away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then it means that your creeps plus the cleave damage of your hero can kill your opponent's creeps. And I know that, like, I talk a lot about creeps because I think that they're going to be, like, I mean, I know that they're kind of just dorky 2/4s and they're just going to be dying all the time, but it really matters because you get that early gold advantage if you're able to buy something like a healing potion or a simple item that can help build a bit of momentum in the game. I think that it can be a huge deal.
Yeah, because creeps are really the baseline that you measure every other card against.
Yeah, because there's just so many of them that are going to be hanging around.
Can they stand up? We've been talking about that the whole time. Can this card stand up to creeps? Well, how much damage do creeps do to this? Because they're always present.
Yeah, so this is definitely something that I think is Grand Melee will be interesting. I'm not sure whether this is how good this is exactly. The fact that it's also an improvement, that it's not on, like, it's not modifying your hero. It's not an item. It doesn't take up an item slot on your hero either. I think are all reasons that are interesting. We do know that Pugna has a active ability that can kill opponents' improvements. So that's one that I don't know how many high value improvements they're going to be, which will inform exactly how good Pugna is. But having that as being a different type of card has its own advantages.
Definitely.
And then how about for the last card? Anger, take us home.
Modify a unit with damage immunity. I think I actually, probably unpopular opinion, but I actually like this one better than what's it called? Hand of God. Yeah.
Me too.
Because Hand of God, while it gives damage immunity, it's only for this round. But Divine Purpose modifies a unit with damage immunity, making them basically immortal.
I did not notice that before, that it actually sticks around.
Like, how do you... Okay, question. How would you kill the unit with Divine Purpose modified it?
Like, so look at, for instance, PA's a signature card, Coup de Grace, at least the original version that we saw. This is a card that says kill to condemn an enemy hero, discard a card. So this means that you can kill an enemy hero no matter what. It doesn't matter what their stats are. It doesn't matter what modifiers they have. They would not die to that card. We don't know how common those sorts of hard removal spells are going to be, but that's one. Another possibility is it depends, once again, how silence works. But if silence takes off any of those modifiers that are on a hero, then it might be vulnerable to physical damage again.
I think silence is more likely just that the hero can't use its ability.
Yeah.
I can think of like 3 or 4 possible definitions of silence, and it really depends on which one it is, of exactly how good it is. You can imagine it saying, remove all modifications. You can imagine it says it loses the ability to cast spells of that color this turn. It could lose the ability to use active abilities. You could do a lot of different things, but exactly what it's defined as will make a huge difference.
Yeah, in Dota, it would be a purge that gets rid of buffs like these.
Yeah. And I know that those are different things in Dota, but exactly how they translate into this game is an open question.
But I think it's worth pointing out the synergy between this and Berserker's Call.
Yeah.
and also, I actually remember that Berserker's Call in the gameplay that we saw with the journalists still had slightly different text. Then it actually didn't say it battles its enemy neighbors. It said it taunts.
Oh,
so I believe that I am right, and it works like it does in Dota. That those units will be forced to attack that red hero.
Okay, so it doesn't trigger many combat.
Let me check.
But that they attack them before the combat phase.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
Okay, so check that up, and then we'll take a recap on that. But yeah, I think that also with Divine Purpose, what you're saying, Anger, about this being better than Hand of God, I actually agree. Also, partly because just even the deck that it goes in. In this case, you're taking your heroes, you're buffing them up, you're setting up a good board, and then you add something like damage immunity to them, and they're just now unstoppable monsters. But in the case of the Hand of God, it feels like that deck is going to be really on the back foot, even as you're getting up into something like turn 7. So it's more for the purposes of, maybe having one like favorable combat, not necessarily exceptional, especially the first time that you cast it. It would be probably more about just catching up and staying, keeping your head above water. So just the difference in how it would play out in the 2 different decks, I really feel that Divine Purpose, this is the top of your curve, you put all your items, you really stack something up, it can be really quite devastating.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so I think that is everything that we had to talk about from this set of cards. This is I'm really excited about all of this. This is a lot of really cool stuff, lots of opening interesting questions left to explore. Cannot wait to get more gameplay footage that comes out of PAX. To close things out, first I want to plug A+Space. This is the website that I set up, and our 2 lovely guests here contribute content to it as well. And it's a place that I have content for a variety of different card games, such as Eternal and Artifact, are the focuses right now, but I also have some content for other games. And if you're interested in supporting the site, you can find information in the links associated with this, as well as on the site. You can find out more all just in the links. Also, just a bit of a note about how this is going to work. That right now I'm working on getting this podcast actually listed in iTunes as a podcast, and I would love if you guys could subscribe. I imagine that a lot of you will be seeing this on YouTube. Please like, subscribe, comment on the video. I'm starting a new channel right now because of this switch of my website, so any support for the new channel is really, really appreciated. Help get it off the ground. But thank you so much for joining me in that respect. But I wanted to give you 2 a chance to plug some of your content. Anger, how about you tell us what you've been up to? Tell us, just anything that you have plans coming up for the next little while.
Well, I'm gonna finish my card series and maybe make some more lore videos. And I have a meme video coming up that I'm not gonna elaborate on. You will have to see.
Oh man.
What?
How dank is this meme though? Like, are we talking like?
It's not dank. It's moist. It's wet.
Moist. That's a lovely description.
Okay.
And how about
it's spicy.
Spicy moist. Gotcha. Cymen,
yeah.
How about you tell us what you got coming up next?
Well, I am still working on my next lore video as well. It is a topic that was recently discussed on the forums, but I had the idea first. So feel free to check out the Artificers Guild. We have more guides coming up, more explanations about certain cards, and I will be doing some lore videos, and perhaps I will branch out in the future, so look forward to that.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing all of that. Thank you, both of you, so much for coming and hanging out with me today. I'll be sure to be talking with you both again very soon. And thank you, listener, for hanging out with us today. It's been a lot of fun, but take care, and we'll see you again soon.
Peace.
Out.
Thank you. Thank you for your business.